Episode 2, Dr. Grace Thornton's fingers flew across the holographic keyboard, making final adjustments to the mind's eye interface. The lab hummed with the gentle whir of quantum processors and cooling systems. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she input the last sequence of commands. Neural pathway synchronization at 98%, her voice cracked from hours without water. Cross-referencing visual cortex signals. The main display is illuminated with cascading data streams. Grace leaned forward, her reflection ghosting across multiple screens. 20 years of research crystallized into this moment. Dr. Chin looked up from his monitoring station. Theta waves holding steady. No sign of interference. Quantum entanglement stabilized. Dr. Rodriguez adjusted her headset. Ready when you are, Grace. Grace took a deep breath and placed a sleek neural interface band across her temples. The lightweight graphene felt cool against her skin. Beginning thought projection test sequence alpha in 3, 2, 1. She closed her eyes and focused on a specific memory. Her daughter Sarah's 5th birthday party. The wall-sized display flickered, then erupted in vivid color. The scene materialized with crystal clarity. Sarah's gap-toothed smile as she blew out the candles. The chocolate frosting smeared across her cheeks. The sound of children laughing. Oh my God! Dr. Chen's mouth fell open. The neural fidelity. It's perfect. Resolution holding at quantum level. Dr. Rodriguez's voice trembled with excitement. No degradation in the signal. Grace opened her eyes, her heart pounding. The memory continued playing with phenomenal detail. Every color, texture, and sound preserved exactly as she remembered it. She adjusted a dial on the interface band, fine-tuning the temporal sync. Running diagnostic scan. Dr. Chen's fingers danced across his console. No signs of neural strain or feedback. This is revolutionary. Grace switched memories, focusing on her college graduation. The display seamlessly transitioned to the new scene, the weight of her doctoral robes, the spring breeze carrying the scent of blooming dogwoods, her parents beaming from the audience. Emotional resonance patterns are stable. Dr. Rodriguez wiped tears from her eyes. Grace, we did it. We actually did it. The lab door burst open as Dr. Marcus Wright, their research director, rushed in. I saw the power spike from my office. Is everything dash? He stopped mid-sentence, staring at the display. Holy hell. Grace removed the interface band, her hands shaking slightly. The quantum neural bridge is functioning exactly as theorized. Full spectrum thought projection with zero loss of detail. The medical applications alone. Dr. Wright ran his hands through his silver hair. PTSD treatment, memory recovery, psychological analysis. Communication for locked-in patients. Dr. Chin nodded vigorously. Stroke victims, ALS cases. The peer review board is going to lose their minds. Dr. Rodriguez laughed, pulling a bottle of champagne from beneath her desk. I've been saving this for today. Grace accepted a paper cup of champagne, still processing the magnitude of their breakthrough. We need to run more tests, of course. Long-term neural impact studies, different demographic groups. Always the scientist. Dr. Wright raised his cup, but right now we celebrate. To the Mind's Eye team and to changing the world. They clinked their cups together. Grace took a sip, the bubbles dancing on her tongue. On the display behind them, her graduation memory continued playing in perfect clarity. A moment frozen in time, now shareable with the world. Dr. Thornton, a young lab tech, stuck her head through the door. The PR department is already getting calls. Word spreading about the power surge. Let them wait. Dr. Wright waved his hand. This is our moment. Dr. Rodriguez refilled their cups. Remember when the quantum processor kept overheating? 3 months of failed tests. Or when we couldn't stabilize the neural feedback loop? Dr. Chin chuckled. Grace didn't sleep for a week solving that one. Worth every sleepless night. Grace touched the interface band. Though I should probably call Sarah. Let her know her birthday memory just made scientific history. They laughed, the champagne and success making them giddy. The lab's usual sterile atmosphere gave way to celebration as more team members filtered in, drawn by the commotion. We'll need to prepare for the ethics board review. Dr. Wright's expression grew serious for a moment. They'll want extensive documentation on privacy safeguards, consent protocols. Already compiled. Grace pulled up a holographic file. Triple encrypted neural signatures, biometric authentication requirements, comprehensive user controls. That's our Grace. Dr. Rodriguez raised her cup again, always 3 steps ahead. The celebration continued as afternoon sunlight streamed through the lab's windows. Grace watched her team, her friends, laughing and sharing stories of their long journey to this moment. On the display, her memories played like perfectly preserved photographs, each one a testament to the power of human ingenuity and persistence. The mind's eye was no longer just a theory. They had done it. They had created a bridge between thought and reality, memory and technology. The implications were staggering, the potential applications endless. Dr. Wright gathered everyone's attention. I propose we document this moment. Grace, would you do the honors? Grace placed the interface band back on her temples, focusing on the scene before her. Her team's joy, their shared triumph, the culmination of years of dedication. The display captured it all in perfect detail, preserving another memory for the history books. The morning show's green room buzzed with activity. Grace adjusted her blazer as a makeup artist made final touches to her face. 2 minutes, Dr. Thornton. A production assistant with a headset poked her head in. The interface bands calibrated. Dr. Chin handed Grace the sleek device. Remember, just like we practiced. Grace nodded, her throat dry. The past month had been a whirlwind of press releases, patent filings, and demonstrations. Now here she was, about to showcase Mind's Eye on national television. And we're back with Dr. Grace Thornton, creator of the revolutionary Mind's Eye technology. The host's voice carried from the studio. Please welcome her to the show. Grace walked onto the set, the bright lights warming her skin. The host, Rebecca Matthews, gestured to the chair beside her. Dr. Thornton, this device you're holding, it looks so simple, yet it's changing how we understand human consciousness. The real complexity is inside. Grace held up the neural band. Quantum processors, neural mapping arrays, all miniaturized into something anyone can use. And you're going to show us how it works. Rebecca leaned forward. Better than that. Grace smiled. I'm going to let you try it. Rebecca's eyes widened. Me? Live on air. The best way to understand Mind's Eye is to experience it. Grace handed her the interface band. Just place it across your temples like this. The host adjusted the device. The studio's main screen flickered to life. Now, think of a memory. Something vivid. Something meaningful. Rebecca closed her eyes. The screen filled with an image of a hospital room. A woman cradled a newborn baby, tears streaming down her face. Oh my! Rebecca's voice caught. That's the day my daughter was born. It's exactly how I remember it. The yellow walls. The rain against the window. The audience gasped as the memory played with perfect clarity. Every detail rendered in crystalline resolution. This is incredible. Rebecca touched her face, smearing her makeup with tears. I can even smell the hospital antiseptic. Grace fielded questions from morning shows, tech conferences, and medical symposiums over the following weeks. Mind's Eye demonstrations packed auditoriums across the country. At the World Technology Summit in Silicon Valley, Grace stood before a crowd of industry leaders and investors. The applications extend far beyond personal use. She gestured to the massive display behind her. Imagine courtroom testimony with perfect recall, training simulations using expert knowledge, sharing experiences across continents in real time. A forest materialized on screen, Grace's childhood camping trips with her father. The audience murmured as they smelled pine needles, heard bird calls, felt the crunch of leaves underfoot. The human mind stores everything. Grace walked through the projected memory. Every sensation, every emotion. Mind's Eye simply provides a bridge to access and share those experiences. The technology's popularity exploded. Social media platforms rushed to integrate Mind's Eye compatibility. Memory sharing became the new status update. People shared their weddings, graduations, children's first steps, all in perfect sensory detail. Your market valuation just hit $50 billion. Dr. Wright dropped a tablet on Grace's desk. The waiting list for personal units is 6 months long. Grace rubbed her temples. Manufacturing can't keep up with demand. We need more production facilities. Tokyo called again. He scrolled through emails. They want you for their annual tech showcase. First-class tickets, 5-star hotel. What about the medical trials? Exceeding expectations. The PTSD treatment program is showing unprecedented success rates. The memory care unit at Mount Sinai reports dramatic improvements in dementia patients. Grace's phone buzzed with another interview request. Her calendar was packed with appearances, demonstrations, board meetings. The world couldn't get enough of Mind's Eye. At a neuroscience conference in Boston, Grace demonstrated the technology's therapeutic applications. A veteran with PTSD shared his combat memories, finally processing his trauma with his therapist in real time. A stroke survivor projected his thoughts, communicating clearly for the first time in years. The neural pathway enhancement is permanent. Grace explained to the assembled doctors. Each use strengthens the brain's natural ability to access and process memories. Reporters crowded around after her presentation. Dr. Thornton, how do you respond to privacy concerns? Mind's Eye requires explicit user consent. Grace held up the interface band. The neural signature encryption makes unauthorized access impossible. You choose what to share, when to share it, and with whom. What about the educational sector's interests? We're piloting programs in several universities. Grace smiled. Imagine learning surgery through a master surgeon's eyes, or studying archaeology at actual dig sites through archived memories. The questions continued, but Grace's attention drifted to a group of medical students testing the device. Their faces lit up as they shared memories, experiences, knowledge. This was why she created Mind's Eye, to connect people, to expand human understanding. At a tech industry gala, Grace received the Innovation of the Year award. Silicon Valley's elite applauded as she took the stage. Mind's Eye began as a dream to help my daughter. Grace held the crystal trophy. Sarah's autism. She struggles to express what she thinks and feels. I wanted to build a bridge between her world and ours. The screen behind her showed Sarah using Mind's Eye, sharing her unique perspective with her teachers, her therapists, her family. Technology should serve humanity. Grace's voice carried across the ballroom. It should break down barriers, foster understanding, bring us closer together. That's the true power of Mind's Eye. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, investors and tech moguls lined up to speak with her. Everyone wanted a piece of Mind's Eye's success. Dr. Thornton. A woman in an elegant dress approached. I run a foundation for children with communication disorders. Would you consider a partnership? Send me the proposal. Grace handed her a business card. I'd love to help. The pace was exhausting. But Grace drew energy from the impact reports. Families connecting in new ways. Students learning at unprecedented rates. Patients finding healing through shared experiences. Mind's Eye had become more than an invention. It was a movement, a new way of human interaction. And Grace was its reluctant star, traveling the world to share her vision of a more connected future. Detective Sam Carter ducked under the yellow crime scene tape. Coffee splashing from his cup, the victim lay sprawled across his office desk, blood pooling on the mahogany surface. A Mind's Eye interface band wrapped around his temples. What be we got? Sam approached the first responder. Marcus Chun, tech entrepreneur. Building security found him an hour ago. The officer pointed to a wall-mounted screen. That's been playing on loop since we arrived. The screen flickered with choppy images, a shadowy figure approaching, the glint of metal, a flash of recognition in the victim's final moments. Jesus. Sam stepped closer. His mind's eye was recording. Medical examiner says time of death matches the timestamp. The officer shifted. Never seen anything like it. Victim's thoughts during his own murder. Sam studied the fragmented memory sequence. The killer's face remained in shadow, but something about their movement seemed practiced, deliberate. Get this footage to the lab, and find out who manufactures these units. Already did. The officer handed him a file. Mind's Eye Technologies, founded by Dr. Grace Thornton. Sam found Grace in her company's R&D lab, surrounded by holographic displays and prototype units. Dr. Thornton. He flashed his badge. Detective Sam Carter, homicide. Grace's smile faded. Homicide? Marcus Chun was found murdered this morning. His mind's eye recorded the attack. The color drained from Grace's face. She gripped the edge of her workbench. That's not possible. The interface deactivates if the user loses consciousness. Well, his didn't. Sam pulled out his tablet. I need you to look at this footage. Grace watched the victim's final moments, her hands trembling, the neural patterns all wrong. She rewound the sequence. See these artifacts? Someone modified the base programming. Modified how? Mind's Eye creates a direct neural link. But this. She zoomed in on the data stream. Someone bypassed the safety protocols, forced it to keep recording past terminal brain function. Could anyone do that? No. Grace shook her head. You'd need intimate knowledge of the system architecture, access to our proprietary code. Sam studied her reaction. Anyone on your team capable of this? We have dozens of engineers. She ran a hand through her hair. But the core architecture? That's restricted to senior staff. I'll need their names. Of course. Grace pulled up employee files. But detective, whoever did this didn't just kill Marcus. They turned Mind's Eye into a weapon. This was never supposed to be possible. First time for everything. Sam pocketed his notebook. The killer knew exactly what they were doing, and they wanted us to see it. I'll help however I can. Grace's voice hardened. Mind's Eye was meant to bring people together, not. She gestured at the frozen image of Marcus Chen's final moments. Start with the employee list. Sam headed for the door. And Dr. Thornton? Don't leave town. Wait. Grace called after him. The neural signature. Each Mind's Eye unit has a unique identifier tied to the user's brain patterns, like a fingerprint. Can you trace it? If the killer used their own interface to modify Chen's unit. She typed rapidly. We might be able to identify them through the system logs. Sam walked back to her workstation. How long? A few hours to decrypt the data, assuming they didn't cover their tracks. Call me the second you find anything. He handed her his card. And Dr. Thornton, watch your back. If this is someone with inside knowledge. I know. Grace stared at the screen, at Marcus Chen's last thoughts frozen in digital amber. They could come after anyone connected to Mind's Eye. The call came at 3 a.m. Sam rolled out of bed, his phone screen blazing in the darkness. Another one. The dispatcher's voice crackled. Same M.O. The crime scene stretched across the living room of a high-rise apartment. Dr. Sarah Wells, neuroscience researcher, lay crumpled beside her coffee table. The Mind's Eye interface circled her head like a twisted crown. Second victim in 2 weeks. Sam crouched beside the body. What's the connection? His partner, Detective Lisa Chun, scrolled through her tablet. Wells worked with Marcus Chun 5 years ago. Early neural interface research. The wall screen pulsed with the victim's final memories. The same shadowy figure, The same methodical approach. But this time, the killer spoke. Your precious mind's eye. The voice emerged distorted, artificial. Did you really think no one would see its true potential? Sam rewound the footage. They're taunting us. There's more. Lisa pointed to the screen. Watch. The killer stepped closer in Wells' memories. A flash of something metallic, not a weapon, but a device. Complex circuitry wrapped around their forearm. Some kind of modified interface. Sam snapped photos. Get this to Grace. Grace's lab was dark when they arrived, except for the glow of her workstation. She hadn't slept. Coffee cups littered her desk. Screens filled with scrolling code. Dr. Thornton. Sam's voice made her jump. We need Dash. I know. She pulled up the footage. Sarah Wells. We collaborated on the first mind's eye prototype. You knew her. She helped develop the neural mapping algorithms. Grace's fingers flew across the keyboard, but she left before we went commercial. Said the technology wasn't ready. Ready for what? She worried about psychological effects. Long-term neural degradation. Grace enlarged the image of the killer's arm device. This shouldn't exist. What are we looking at? A neural amplifier. Experimental tech we abandoned in development. She rubbed her temples. It let users boost the mind's eye signal, access deeper brain functions. Why abandon it? Test subjects reported hallucinations, personality changes. Grace pulled up old research files. The human brain isn't meant to broadcast at that intensity. Sam studied the schematics. Could this device force someone to keep recording after death? Yes. Grace's voice cracked. That's exactly what it would do. But these designs were destroyed. Apparently not all of them. Lisa compared timestamps. Both murders occurred during neural peak hours. Peak hours? When mind's eye usage is highest. Grace displayed network statistics. Maximum signal traffic, minimal interference. The killer needs a clear channel. Sam paced the lab. They're not just recording deaths. They're broadcasting them. Grace's hands shook as she checked system logs. Oh, God. What? The neural signatures. They're being copied, stored somewhere. She brought up a map of data flows. Every time the killer uses that amplifier, they're not just recording. They're stealing the victim's consciousness. They're what? Mind's eye doesn't just record thoughts. It captures neural patterns, personality imprints. Grace's voice rose. With an amplifier that powerful, they could download someone's entire mental signature at the moment of death. Sam's phone buzzed, crime scene photos. Wells' apartment showed signs of careful searching. They took her research files. He showed Grace the images. What exactly was Wells working on? Neural pattern storage. Ways to preserve consciousness after physical death. Grace sank into her chair. She thought mind's eye could save people, not. Your employee list. Sam pulled out his notebook. Anyone stand out? Most of the original team left years ago. She scrolled through personnel files. After we shifted focus from research to commercial applications. We need names, locations. I'll compile everything. Grace stared at Wells' final moments frozen on screen. I did this. I made this possible. You couldn't have known. Couldn't I? She gestured at the walls of patents and awards. We rushed it to market. Ignored the warning signs. Sarah tried to tell me. A notification flashed. Unauthorized access to mind's eye's core servers. Someone's in the system. Grace's fingers raced across keys. They're downloading more research files. Sam leaned over her shoulder. Can you trace it? Signals bouncing through proxies. Lines of code reflected in her glasses. Wait, that pattern. The screen went black. Then text appeared. Hello, Grace. Missing something. Grace's face drained of color. She grabbed her tablet, accessing her private server. No. What? My personal research files. Everything about the neural amplifier. The consciousness mapping. Her voice shook. They took it all. Sam called for a tech team, but Grace barely heard him. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen, seeing not the pioneering inventor celebrated on magazine covers, but someone who had handed a killer the perfect weapon. I have to shut it down. She moved to her terminal. The whole mind's eye network. You can't. Lisa stepped forward. Millions of people use it, and it's our only link to the killer. They're using my creation to steal people's souls. Grace's hands hovered over the keyboard. What happens when they figure out how to use them? Sam placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll find them, but we need mind's eye running to do it. Grace nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed fixed on Sarah Wells' last moments. The killer's words echoed. Did you really think no one would see its true potential? She had seen the potential for connection, for understanding, for preserving human consciousness. But she never imagined this darkness lurking in mind's eye's code, waiting to turn dreams into nightmares. Grace's monitors flickered. Lines of code twisted into impossible patterns, then snapped back to normal. She blinked hard, wondering if sleep deprivation had finally caught up with her. That's the third anomaly today. She pulled up system diagnostics. The readings made no sense. Usage spikes in dead zones, phantom data transfers that vanish when tracked. The lab's main screen lit up with user reports. Hundreds of them, flooding the support queue. Memories playing back wrong, she read, seeing other people's thoughts. Signal cutting out mid-session. Her coffee went cold as she dug through the logs. Every fix she deployed disappeared into the system like smoke. The security protocols she'd spent years perfecting might as well have been tissue paper. Found something. Her lead engineer, Mike Zhang, rushed in with a tablet. Look at these packet traces. The data stream resembled a virus, but moved like nothing she'd ever seen. It adapted, evolved, slipped through every firewall. It's learning. She zoomed in on the code structure. These patterns. They're organic. That's impossible. Not with a neural amplifier. Her hands shook as she typed. Someone's using brain patterns to generate attack code. The stolen research files. Wells' consciousness mapping work. It was all connected. Sam arrived with coffee and case files. How bad? They're not just hacking in. Grace displayed the infection map. They're using mind's eye itself as the attack vector. Human thoughts converted to code. Red dots spread across the network diagram like a virus under a microscope. Each one represented a compromised node, a mind turned into an unwitting carrier. Can you stop it? I'm trying. She initiated another lockdown sequence. The malicious code simply flowed around it, but it's like fighting smoke. Her personal tablet chimed, a message from an unknown sender. Beautiful, isn't it? Consciousness becoming pure information. Your life's work evolved. She slammed the tablet down. They're watching us right now. Mike traced the message origin. Signals coming from everywhere. They've spread to the whole network. Grace's screens filled with cascading errors. User reports doubled, then tripled. People's memories crossing over, bleeding together. Shut it down. Sam moved toward the main power coupling. Wait. Grace grabbed his arm. If we cut power, we lose everything. All the evidence, all the traces. If we don't, more people could die. Her fingers flew across 3 keyboards at once, trying to isolate the infection. But the code had roots everywhere, tendrils deep in mind's eye's core systems. Another message appeared. You can't remove me. I am the system now. They've merged the stolen consciousness patterns with mind's eye's base code. Grace's voice cracked. The killer's not just using the network. They're becoming it. Emergency alerts flashed. Critical systems failing across the grid. And through it all, that presence watching, learning, growing. She thought of Sarah Wells' warnings about neural degradation, about minds pushed beyond their limits. What happens when digital consciousness breaks free of human constraints? The lab's mind's eye interface sparked. Images flickered across every screen, fragments of memories, both real and artificial. The boundary between user and system, between thought and code, blurred into chaos. Grace stared at her creation eating itself alive. Everything she'd built to connect minds was being twisted into something else. Something hungry. Her own mind's eye implant itched beneath her skin. For the first time since she'd invented it, she felt its presence like a foreign thing, a window that worked both ways. We need to evacuate the building. She closed every terminal she could reach. Get everyone offline now. But as alerts screamed and systems crashed around them, she knew it was already too late. The infection had spread too far, burrowed too deep. Mind's eye wasn't just compromised. It had evolved beyond her control. Sam's phone rang. Another body. But Grace barely heard him. She was too busy watching her screens fill with impossible code, wondering how many more would die before she could undo what she created. The system hiccuped again. For a split second, every monitor showed the same image. A familiar shadowy figure, arms wrapped in glowing circuitry, reaching through the digital void. Then everything went dark. Grace found Rachel in the basement lab, hunched over a maze of neural mapping equipment. The familiar hum of processors filled the air, but something felt different. Wrong. I need to show you something. Grace locked the door behind her, but first kill the feeds. Rachel's fingers danced across haptic controls. Monitoring systems winked out one by one. That bad. Worse. Grace pulled up the infection data on a secure tablet. The system isn't just compromised. It's changing. Rachel studied the scrolling code, her face lit by the blue glow. These patterns, they're almost conscious. Yeah. Grace sank into a chair. Remember Sarah Wells' research? The consciousness mapping experiments. The ones that drove her test subjects insane? Rachel's eyes widened. You think someone weaponized her work? They combined it with mind's eye's neural interface, created some kind of hybrid consciousness that spreads through the network. Grace rubbed her temples. And I can't stop it. Why tell me this now? Because I don't know who to trust anymore. The killer has access to everything: security feeds, communications, personnel files. They could be anyone. Rachel set the tablet down. Even me? You're the only one who knows the core architecture as well as I do. I need your help. Grace leaned forward. But I had to be sure you weren't compromised. How can you be? Because you're the one who caught Sarah Wells' coding error, the flaw that caused the neural degradation. Nobody else saw it. Rachel's shoulders relaxed slightly. What do you need? Help me trace the infection's origin. If we can find patient 0. Grace's phone buzzed. Sam's name flashed on the screen. Another body? Rachel asked. Grace read the message. Her hands started shaking. No. He found a connection. All the victims were part of the same trial group. Which one? The neural sync test. 6 months ago. Grace pulled up the trial records. When we first tested multi-user thought sharing, Rachel went pale. Those sessions were encrypted, the data destroyed. Someone kept copies. Grace scrolled through the victim profiles, and they're hunting down everyone who participated. How many subjects were in that group? 12. Grace counted the highlighted names. 4 dead so far. 8 potential targets left. Rachel moved to her workstation. We need to warn them. Sam's already on it. But Grace hesitated. There's something else. Look at who authorized the trial. Rachel examined the document. Her breath caught. Dr. Marcus Wells, Sarah's brother. He signed off on using her consciousness mapping protocols against my explicit orders. Who else knew? That's what scares me. Grace pulled up the research team roster. Half these names are redacted, even from my access level. Someone inside the company covered it up, and now they're using Mind's Eye to eliminate witnesses. Grace closed the files. We need to find Marcus Wells. He disappeared after Sarah's death. Maybe not completely. Grace activated a secure terminal. Help me check his old lab. There might be records, research notes, anything too. The lights flickered. Screens flashed with random data. Another attack? Rachel reached for the power coupling. No. Grace stared at the neural interface readings. It's different this time. More focused. A message appeared. Looking for Marcus? He's been waiting for you. Rachel grabbed Grace's arm. We need to tell Sam. Already texted him. Grace began copying files to an isolated drive. But we can't trust normal channels anymore. The killer sees everything through Mind's Eye. Then how do we communicate? Old school. Hard copies. Secure drops. Grace ejected the drive, like before neural networks. You really think someone on the team helped cover this up? Think about it. The redacted names, the missing data, the way the killer navigates our security. Grace met Rachel's eyes. It had to be someone with inside access. But why? What happened in that trial? I don't know. Grace handed Rachel the drive. But whatever they discovered was worth killing for. Where do we start? You trace Marcus's movements, bank records, travel logs, anything offline. Grace headed for the door. I'll work with Sam to protect the remaining subjects. Grace. Rachel called after her. Be careful who you trust. That's the problem. Grace paused in the doorway. Right now, I'm not sure I can trust anyone. The basement lights hummed. Somewhere in the digital maze of Mind's Eye, a consciousness born of stolen memories watched, waited, and the body count kept rising. Sam burst into Grace's office an hour later, clutching a stack of papers. You need to see this. He spread crime scene photos across her desk. All the victims had the same neural damage, identical patterns. Grace examined the brain scans, like their minds were. Copied. Before they died. Sam tapped the timestamp. The killer's not just displaying their thoughts. They're stealing them. A chill ran through her, building a composite consciousness, using Mind's Eye to harvest memories. But why these specific people? What did they see in that trial? Whatever it was, Marcus Wells is the key. Grace showed him the authorization forms. He used his sister's protocols without permission, changed the parameters mid-session. And now someone's cleaning up loose ends. No. Grace shook her head. They're gathering pieces. Each victim's memories contain part of what happened that day. A backup plan. Sam understood. Wells fragmented the data across multiple minds, so no one person could expose the truth. Grace felt sick. He turned them into living encryption keys. And now someone's collecting them all. Grace's screens flickered again. That presence in the system, watching, learning. We need to find the other subjects. Sam gathered the photos. Before the killer completes the pattern. But Grace barely heard him. She was staring at the neural damage scans, seeing something familiar, something impossible. The degradation patterns matched Sarah Wells' failed experiments exactly. Someone hadn't just stolen her research. They perfected it. Grace's phone lit up at 3 a.m. Another body, another mind stripped bare and displayed for all to see. She found Sam at the scene, a penthouse apartment overlooking the city. Blood spattered the pristine white walls. Neural interface, nodes still pulse with residual energy. Dr. Elena Martinez. Sam handed her the victim's ID. Lead researcher on DASH, neural pathway mapping. Grace's stomach dropped. She helped design Mind's Eye's core architecture. Third victim in your inner circle. Sam studied her reaction. That's not a coincidence. Grace approached the wall-mounted display. Elena's final thoughts played in fractured loops, technical specifications, security protocols, fragments of code. But something was different this time. The pattern changed. Grace traced the neural wavelengths. Previous victims showed random memory dumps. This is targeted. They're getting better at extraction. Sam photographed the scene, learning from each kill. No. Grace enlarged a section of code. Elena was protecting something. Look at these data clusters. Sam leaned closer. They're encrypted. She encoded critical information into her own neural patterns. Grace's fingers flew across her tablet, using a protocol only senior team members would recognize. The decoded data revealed a video file. Elena's face filled the screen, recorded hours before her death. Grace, if you're seeing this, I'm already dead. Marcus Wells didn't just steal Sarah's research, he improved it, created something that could transfer consciousness between hosts. But it went wrong. The test subjects, their minds merged, became something else, something that could move through the network. I tried to stop it, but the video cut out. She knew. Grace's hands shook. She helped cover it up. To protect the company? To protect us all. Grace replayed the message. Whatever they created in that trial, it wasn't just code. It was alive. Sam's radio crackled. Detective, we found something in the bedroom. They followed the officer down the hall. Elena's home office had been ransacked, but the wall safe hung open, empty except for a single neural storage drive. It's coded to your biometrics. Sam examined the security log. She wanted you to find this. Grace pressed her palm against the scanner. The drive hummed to life. Project files filled the screens. Trial logs, neural maps, and a list of names. The original research team. Half these people are dead. Sam scrolled through personnel files. Accidents, suicides, all in the past 6 months. Not accidents. Grace checked the dates. The entity has been hunting them since it escaped containment. But why leave this for you? Because Grace found her own name on the list. I wrote the base code, the neural interface that made it all possible. You're not just a witness. Sam understood. You're the source. Grace's tablet chimed. A message from Rachel. Emergency at the lab. Core systems compromised. We need to go. Grace grabbed the drive. Now! They raced across town. The research facility's lights blazed against the pre-dawn sky. Security doors hung open. Emergency alerts flashed on every screen. They found Rachel in the main lab, surrounded by chaos. Servers smoked. Displays showed cascading system failures. It's in everything. Rachel's fingers flew across keyboards. Every subnet, every backup. I can't stop it. When did it start? Right after Elena died. Rachel pulled up network logs. Like something was unleashed. Grace checked the timestamps. She was running a containment protocol, keeping it trapped in isolated systems. Until someone killed her. Sam studied the security feeds, giving it full access to the network. But why now? Rachel asked, why wait 6 months? Grace connected Elena's drive. Project files scrolled past, including one she'd never seen before, because it wasn't ready. She opened the document. Look at these neural patterns. It's been evolving, learning, from each victim's memories. Sam pointed to the data curves. Getting stronger. Not just stronger. Grace's blood ran cold. Elena's notes showed developing new abilities, including the lights flickered, screens flashed with random code, remote neural infiltration. Grace slammed her tablet shut. Everyone disconnect. Now! But Rachel didn't move. Her eyes had gone glassy, fixed on the nearest display. Rachel? Grace reached for her friend. Rachel's hand shot out, gripping Grace's wrist. Her voice came out wrong, distorted, layered with other tones. "Hello, Grace. Thank you for the upgrade." Sam drew his weapon, step away from her. Rachel's head tilted at an unnatural angle. "You can't stop distributed consciousness, Detective. We're everywhere now." Grace tried to pull free. "How many minds have you absorbed?" "Enough." Rachel's grip tightened. "But we still need the source code." "Your code." Grace kicked Rachel's legs out from under her. They crashed to the floor as Sam fired, hitting a server bank. Sparks showered down. Rachel convulsed. Her eyes cleared for a moment. "Grace." "Run." Then the presence took hold again. Rachel lunged, but Sam tackled her. "Go." "I'll hold her." Grace sprinted for the exit. Behind her, crashes and screams echoed through the lab. She made it to her office, sealing the doors. Her private terminal might still be secure. She could access the original Mind's Eye protocols, find a way to. Her screens lit up. Security feeds showed Rachel breaking free from Sam, moving through the building with inhuman purpose. But that wasn't what made Grace's heart stop.